Hey guys, what's up? This is the strangest season of my life, and you're probably annoyed of hearing that, but that every single day, that's how I feel. Let me let you into my life over the last week or so. A week ago, from the recording of this video, I presented to our board what it looked like for us to go inside with some large group emphasis, not just the small groups that you are experiencing and watching this under right now. And then in 2 days, boom, the school says, hey, well, why don't we not move forward? Let's take a step back and go hybrid. So immediately I went like, all of this work, it's not scratched. I'm not going to tear up those notes, but I put a pause on it. And repeatedly again, I got overwhelmed internally with the sense of saying, what do I do? How do I do ministry in this season? I thought I would get a little bit of grasp on it. I had 7 months of COVID underneath my belt. Now we're 7 months plus. We've progressed. I've been able to look back and evaluate and say, yeah, missed an opportunity there. Oh, wow, way over exceeded my actual expectations and goals there. Here we are processing and doing and trying to grow. And now, again, it's like, okay, everything I've done now to prepare me for this moment, it's gone. Went to school, got a master's degree. Yep, let's put that aside because now that's no longer helping me. 10 plus years of ministry, that's no longer speaking to this moment. And the 7 months of education I just gained, we went in the opposite direction of. In my heart, I'm asking the question. I never thought in my ministry I'd be to this point, especially not 10 years in. If you asked me 10 years ago, where do you want to be in 10 years in ministry? This would not be where I want to be in this mental and emotional reality where I can honestly say, God, how do I do this? God, can I do this? The fourth and final distraction in the series that we've been looking at, the 4 major distractions that Jesus reveals to us that actually keep us and prevent us from experiencing and encountering and seeing Him in our lives for all the things that He's done and is doing currently and in the future for us. We have these 4 distractions. And the fourth one is the simple but honest reaction where we can honestly say, God, I am distracted by the fact that I have no experience and I don't know how. Yes, Jesus is doing something for me. He is prepared, I think, to amaze us, to transform us, to give us new and eternal life. It's already done most of it. Some of it He's doing currently right in front of us for us. But we are so easily tempted. I have been now in a way I never dreamed, tempted by the reality of saying, God, I want it, but how? Is it even possible? At 10 years, at 33, I can say there's something that you and I actually share in common that should naturally not be the case when I'm a youth pastor, is that we are literally in the same position and we have the same slate to work from. Everything that I should have an advantage to you guys has been thrown out the window. No one taught me how to do this, and no one, and I'm sorry for this, has taught you and prepared you well for this. I have not prepared you well to answer this question. How do I encounter Jesus in a pandemic? How do I encounter Jesus when nothing I've ever done prepared for me this? How do I encounter Jesus? How do I have a relationship, an ongoing, loving, intimate relationship with my Creator, who believes so amazingly in me despite how I feel and see myself? How do I have a relationship with Him? Because see, in our story here that we've been looking at with the young rich ruler, the young rich ruler is already gone, but this crowd, specifically the crowd of the disciples, larger than 12, by the way, but this larger disciple sees Jesus have this interaction, and the guy leave, and we know that one of those 12, the kind of rambunctious, maybe potentially obnoxious one, Peter, looks at Jesus and says, so hey, if that's true for that guy, if that's true for, remember who they're looking at, a guy who everything he touched turned to gold. This guy was young and successful. In that day, you had to inherit it or you just had to do something amazing. And we learned that the context of this guy is nothing about his inheritance, but everything he's done. Jesus said, why don't you continue? What must I do? Jesus says, continue to do what you've been doing. Be successful. And He gives him a long list of things we should do. And the guy goes, great, I've been doing it. Anything else I should go do? And Jesus gave him, go sell everything you have, give up everything of your sense of control. Give up everything you've been able to manipulate and do on your own. Go give that away, all your successes, all of your abilities to make everything you touch turn into gold, and give it away and come and follow me and you have these 12 disciples hanging around Jesus. It's like, we've never touched anything and turned it into gold. And in fact, we've done actually already, despite any success, despite it being even difficult for us to give it up, we've given up everything to follow you. And I love what Peter says. It just sounds so raw. It sounds so real. It sounds so relevant to my heart. Okay, God, I have gone 10 years of ministry. I have gone 3.5 almost here in Bedford with you guys, trying to pour into your lives. God, what do I do now? How do I help them? How do I myself? I went to Florida, guys, a couple weeks ago with this sole intention to discover, God, how do I personally connect with you in this season? Nothing prepared me like nothing prepared the disciples. Nothing they knew in their long, rich history of being in God's kingdom and family. None of their families, though they probably raised them with their best intentions and best efforts, none of the parenting they received even prepared them for this moment. None of the teachings from their religious leaders, or what we would call pastors or youth pastors, prepared them for the moment to have to answer, how do I have a relationship with Jesus with this reality? I mean, I never dreamed I'd be where all of us are and to be able to say, I have no idea, don't ask me. You see, the disciples came to Jesus and said, if he of all people can't do it, I mean, if the best guy in the room can't figure out how to do this, and he isn't able to control the circumstances when everything he touches turns into gold, is there anything, listen to what Peter asked, is there anything left for us who've actually at least obeyed your command and left everything to follow you? I mean, you can hear the tone that we talked about a little bit last week with that third distraction still hung over in Peter's question, because previously all the disciples said, who then, if that guy can't be, who then can be saved? Can we be saved? And the question I ask all the time is this. This is me by nature. But I think you do this, and I hope you've already done the little activity I've given you to help you even see if this is true for you. How can I know that I can do it? I mean, let me answer that question. For you, traditionally, when you are raised with a situation where you have to ask the question, how can I have a relationship with God? How can I have a relationship with a friend? How can I know that I can play on the basketball team? How can I know that I can play on the volleyball team? How can I know that I can win? How do I know that I can pass this test? How do I know, for you high school students, I'm smart enough to take that class next year? For you near graduates soon, or people, or if you're adults and your parents and you're watching this, how can I know I can do the next thing? Traditionally, if you've been like me, you fall back onto pastors. We say, we learned that in seminary. In fact, the common joke we say on the other side of that is seminary did not prepare me for this. I mean, traditionally, we fall back onto our experience. We go to those who are most experienced. So if you're like me, I said this earlier, I go for blogs. I go for vlogs. I literally go and start reading books and say, so how did they do it? How are they doing it? We are literally, guys, in a season, and you know this, where you're calling unprecedented, where the experts we once have no longer seem to hold much expertise. Let me say that again. The experts we have, our past, you can have your own expertise here. You're experts in something. Our own experts and the expertise that they have, they no longer seem to have. We don't know who to listen to and who holds truth for us. I don't know what leader in America on the church end that I should go listen to. So in fact, actually here in a couple of days, in my context, we're going to be getting together with all the county youth pastors. They're like, hey guys, what are you doing? I want to hear from you and hear what you're doing, because nothing I learned, I don't know how to answer the how question for myself. And I'm just going to be real. I'm struggling to answer it for you, and I'm talking about it today. The disciples felt the exact same reality and saying, whoa. Is this the point we should stop moving forward, Jesus? Is this the point where we should sever our relationship with you? If that guy can't, and he knows how to do everything, and he's done everything successfully, when we don't know anything, we've had very little success. We were just simple fishermen, or we were traders and we became tax collectors. If that guy can't do it, how can we? Is this the spot where I should just say it's over, it's not worth moving forward? Is this the part where I just get depressed enough to say maybe I'm not going to try hard enough? How do I have a relationship with Jesus? How do I encounter everything in front of you, Jesus, when I don't know how? When everything I have done that should have prepared me for this moment did not prepare me for this moment, and I absolutely love Jesus' response, and this is so important, and I'm going to apply it and explain it in just a second, so hold on with me. Jesus says this, you ready? When the disciples are asking the same question you and I are asking about, how can we when we don't know how? How can we when no one knows how? How can we when everything we can fall back onto and at least try to connect dots connects to nowhere? How do we encounter you and have a relationship with you and experiencing everything you do for me, Jesus, when I don't know how? And Jesus' response was this. You ready? He says, this is impossible with man. This is impossible for you. To which I read that and I go, okay, positive answer, please. You just regurgitated what I just feel. Jesus goes, I know it's impossible for you. In fact, I've always known. Hear that. Jesus knew something about you and I that he goes, yep, what you see is true. You can't. That sounds discouraging until you hear the rest of it, where Jesus says, I know you can't. This is impossible with man, but, my favorite three-letter word in the English language, but nothing is impossible with God. These situations you're dealing with, this kind of like literally physically outside, inclement weather, this inclement experience, this storm you are facing in your literal lives that you don't know what to do, yeah, I knew you would be able to in advance. But God is able to do everything. I mean, take your little paper bag and answer me this riddle and this question. When you have to determine whether you can do something and whether you think you even know how to do something, what is the first thing you attempt to do? If you want to know, do you think I can make a basket if I were to shoot it from here? What's the first thing you're going to do? If you want to have the confidence, hear this out. If you want to have the confidence and the belief that you can actually step in and experience or achieve or accomplish or do something, what is the first thing you are tempted to do? What is our natural impulse? If you're like me, your first natural impulse is to try. Your natural impulse is to do what this guy in our story did. What must I do? Do you hear it? What must I do? Do you hear the distraction? What must I do? When Jesus goes, oh, disciples, you're onto something here. You can't do it. I mean, the story here, the moral of the story is predicated on one guy who could, who ended up not being able to and walked away sad, and a group of people who recognized they couldn't, so they surrendered to Jesus, and now they're saying, you're right, I don't know how do I? And Jesus says, I will. You see, the mistake in this story and the distraction that actually led one group of people to even growing closer to Jesus and another individual, the young rich man, leaving Jesus, was this guy over here believed that the only way he was going to be able to experience something is if he knew how. And so he asked Jesus, what must I do? How can I inherit eternal life? And Jesus' answer to him, as he is to you and I, how doesn't matter. Let me say this, and I want you to hear it very clearly. You don't have to know how to experience Jesus. Say it this way. The Christian faith, the faith that I bought into, the faith I hope you bought into, I want to clarify, has never been about your story. It has never been on what Jason could do. It has never been on what Jason has done. It has never been on what Jason has learned. It has never been, listen to this, it has never been about how many verses I've memorized. It has never been about how many verses I've read. The core and the foundation of my faith has never been a story about Jason has. Just like disciples. The disciples said, I left everything. I gave up everything. As my shirt says, I surrendered everything. And Jesus says, exactly. You can't, but nothing is impossible with God. Here's what I want you to get today. I think it's true. I'm going to use fancy words, and then I'll hopefully apply it so you get this as I close. Competence does not precede confidence. You don't have to first try something to believe you can do something. You don't have to have experience or knowledge to have enough faith to attempt or to seek. You don't have to have competence in order to have confidence. You don't have to know what's in that paper bag before you can think there might be a chance you'll like it. It's like the game, what is it? Bean Doozled or whatever, it's the jelly beans, whatever they call that. I'm close. Okay, let's work with that. I was close. Okay, you don't know which bean it is, but you know there's a chance you'll like it. Only because you know what's in there. Interestingly enough, Jesus says, don't worry about what's in here. I don't see what you see, remember? I know this is impossible with you, but nothing's impossible for you if you are willing to sell all of that away and come and follow me. Hear this. When you did nothing, Jesus did everything. Before you could even try, Jesus already did. Here's what I want to encourage you to do. If you want to encounter Jesus in this season where, honestly, guys, I can't answer the question how. I'm just like the disciples. I'm just like you. I can't give you the strongest word of wisdom of saying it. If you do these 3 things, like every book, 7 Steps to the Better You. No, I can't give that to you today. But what I can tell you is this. Jesus said, I already knew you couldn't, but I already can. I know you can't. I already did. Can you potentially today remove and tear down the distraction that says, until I try, I'll never. Until I have, I can't. Can you tear down that lie and say, it doesn't matter about me, it's not my story, it's God's story? That the moment I discover real life and encounter Jesus is the moment I actually take the I out of the equation and say you. Jesus looked at his disciples and said, you got it. Because you surrendered to me and you said, God, it's no longer about me. It's all about you. So here's my challenge for you. Change the narrative. Make the plot not about you, but about Jesus. Not about your insecurities, not about your inabilities, not about your lack of experience, not about your immaturity, but all about you haven't, you may not be able to ever, but Jesus already has, and he always will.